everybody, and welcome to another episode of Uniquely Designed. So, I would like to just start here and confess that if you see me laughing or really leaning into the conversation, it is not something that I'm trying to pretend like I'm interested in or pretend like something was funny or something was engaging. I am really literally interested in the conversations that I have, which is why I enjoy doing this. And I hope that you enjoy listening and sharing the content as well. But listen, today's conversation, I just want to admit I was not versed, and I'm still not as versed as I should be and can be on the whole agricultural process, farming, and all of that. And my guest today is a Kentucky State University alum. So we share that common bond, but just how he goes into the great information and history of farming and how that I wasn't ready. I had no clue. So I want those of you who might be as unversed as I am, shamelessly, I apologize. I just didn't know that much. I want you to go ahead and grab your friends, even young, your children. It's a great conversation with Trevor Claiborne, also known as Farmer Brown. Great conversation. I don't want to even tell you what he's talking about. So without any further ado, let's go into this great conversation. Let's go. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in always. And I'm going to be a little biased because not only am I interested in this conversation, but we are also fellow thoroughbreds of the Kentucky State University, always representing. So those of you who did not have the pleasure of experiencing that great prestigious university, we apologize and hope that you still excel in life. So how was it though for you? Just let's start there. How was it for you? What made you even choose going to Kentucky State, like HBCU? So I don't even know, like, where are you from?
So I'm originally from Macomb, Mississippi, but I grew up in Lexington, so I'm KY.
I don't know if I even asked you that before. I don't know. We're just figuring this out now together. You know, I lived in Natchez, Mississippi for about 9.5 years.
Oh, wow. So okay.
Yeah. So I know where Macomb is. Yeah. So how did Kentucky State get introduced to you from Macomb?
So it's kind of a long story. So my mother, she's a retired educator. So she had gotten a job at Bryan Station Senior High as a teacher. And so, she came up to Kentucky, raised me and my sister. We were discussing earlier about being a non-traditional student. So, kind of going through it fast. So I was into hip hop from 95 to about 99. 99, I started my path at BCTC. Actually, it was LCC at that time.
Yeah,
Can't tell you how old I am.
Community college, yeah.
But it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I was bent on doing music. I felt like this was the pathway for me. And so I pursued that for a few years. We lived down in Atlanta, Georgia. My group Bonafide Circle for about 5 years in Atlanta, Georgia. Came back to Kentucky. I was a janitor. That life can happen fast. And so long story short, a few friends of mine, we were sitting together just kind of figuring out, what we wanted to do with ourselves. This was about 2007. And I came up with my first business, Hometown Environmental Restoration Operation. And it was basically a lawn care business, but we were kind of looking towards, because if you remember 2007, that's when President Obama was, in his first election. A lot of optimism, and this word urban restoration kept coming up. And, we were optimistic and saying, hey, how can we work ourselves within this space? And so we were north side Lexington. So we were around a lot of distressed properties. And so the goal was, okay, along with our lawn care, how can we incorporate this restoration with the services? And so fast forward, one of my friends was like, hey, bro, you can go to school. They pay you to go to school. And what he meant was scholarship.
Yeah.
But,
you get the word pay.
You know how it gets when you sit and powwowing with your buddies and you're trying to come up with all these ways to, just navigate the system. And so in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I did drop out of LCC back in 99. I'm on good graces, so let me go back now. So by then, I re-enrolled in 2009 at BCTC, Environmental Science and Technology. I was a lot older at that time, so I was 28 when I re-enrolled. I'd already done the rap thing, and so I was really focused on trying to legitimize our urban restoration business. And so as I was getting into that field of urban restoration or environmental science, I realized there was never more than two of us in any class that I was ever in when it came to environmental science, environmental law, soil quality, things of that nature. And the one brother that was there, he was from Detroit. He dropped out, I think, the second semester. And so I had a full 2 years there. I would be the only one. But it was one of the most amazing experiences I had, as far as this is just very new to me. You know what it is in Atlanta, to go from Atlanta to being out in the wilderness, doing nature hikes, soil samples, things of that nature. So it was intriguing, and then just realizing man, you don't see a lot of us in this space. And so fast forward, working with Miss Charlene Walker. She said, "Hey, Trevor, they have scholarships, at 1890s land grants for STEM. STEM, that was kind of the buzzword at that time. And so it was almost a spin the bottle situation. I'm like, yeah, there is a HBCU up the street, K-State. And unfortunately, I'd always known K-State as the party school. This is where you go for homecoming. I didn't even know such thing as agriculture existed there. And so it was a spin the bottle situation. There weren't any environmental science programs at that time. And this is 2012 when I graduated from BCTC. And so it was the College of Agriculture, Ag, Food, and Environment. And so I'm like, okay, this is STEM. Well, I'll go. And once again, the whole premise was, and by this time we had gotten into community service, getting kids, taking them outdoors, things of that nature. But it was when I got to K-State where, my whole life changed, as far as just understanding agriculture, understanding the history of it, understanding the economics of it, the just overall well-being of a nation, overall well-being of an individual is based on your food, and then the nation is driven by your food supply.
Before you jump into it, because I know you're going to unload there, I want to go back, way back, because Mississippi, were you rapping in Mississippi? No.
Oh, no. I grew up in Lexington. I was born down there.
So Mississippi, Lexington, Atlanta, rap group somewhere in there. To go from rap to food environment, and agriculture and soil sampling, all this stuff. What caused even that transition? Because there was a reason you got into, because I know even you, singer, songwriter, rap, all that type of stuff, to go into something that, had you ever been exposed to it somewhere earlier, or was it all adult, like when you got older?
My mother, the Deep South gardening is normal in many places, especially if you got the old school grandmothers. And so there was always, garden plots around my granny's house. That would be one of those things where, if you don't get out of my hair, I'm going to make you come, work in this garden with me. And so it was always just an abstract, something that somebody else did. My mom would always have a backyard garden growing up. That was just normal. I assumed everybody's, household had one of these. But I never once thought of agriculture as a business. I just, I go to the store, I'm hungry, I buy something, it's prepared, fast food. And so I think it was really my, so I spent maybe 6 years, even while I was in undergrad, even going up to K-State, I was a janitor. I had worked full-time at BCTC as a custodian.
How did even that, because I can imagine, because I don't know, but even with your rapping, with your group, were y'all doing sets all the time, always traveling?
I tell you what, so we did pretty well, right? Okay. And this is, I hate to jump around. When I tell kids, because a lot of times we see the entertainment or the sports as this is where the bag is. And you don't want to be a person sour grapes. Oh, well, because I couldn't get there, I don't like it. No, I've experienced the highs of it, and I've also experienced the lows. You're only as valuable as your popping single. Depending on the links you want to go, if you're in a competitive music market, and this ties to every market, you have to. Do you want to talk about the stuff that's selling? We're country boys. And so it got to a point where, so we go tour around the country with Rob Jackson and Black Coffee. Both of them had record deals with Motown and Arista. And so we were on the independent label Teamwork. We all had the same management. And so, like I said, the same shows. We had our own shows doing the CDs. And what we would do is, whenever, the focus went towards them, we'd come back up to Lexington. I had a big brother, Kirk Blackburn. he'd give us little part-time janitor gigs just to make a little extra money before we go back down to Atlanta. And so I did that for easily 10 years, up until I started working at the research farm. So it was about 10 years in the custodial work. But I think it was doing that work. It would be sometimes, I know some of your listeners remember Starlight and K2s. And so these were millionaires, black folks that used to do those shows. Rodney Hughley, he's transitioned, but they own cleaning services. So they own cleaning services, and they were bringing the concerts in, and then they own these clubs. So we'd rip the stage, and then after everybody's gone, we'd be in there cleaning. Mm-hmm. So that was it was a mental exercise. You go from being popular, hey, dancing to your music, to now I'm cleaning your puke up out of this bathroom. And so what that did...
Well, you said something I don't want to skate by, because you said it's a mental exercise, because there are people who would skip over that and would stay with the celebration and not with the character building. That's really strong that you said the mental exercise of that, because now that you are an entrepreneur, of course you still work and stuff as well, and do different things, but that mental exercise, I would never even equate the word mental exercise. Like the exercise, when I think of exercise, you're working on something, working out something. So what do you feel was being worked out of you or worked in you while you were, because you said, the stage, celebrating, and now cleaning up people's puke. That's mental exercise, it's humility. But what do you...
Humility. Pride goes before the fall. I signed my first autograph when I was 15. When we just jumped off in high school, Bonafide Circle, we used to sell tapes. We make hundreds of dollars a week. We're high school selling music. And so, there's a certain ego, and I think any athlete or anybody that's athlete or entertainer that's ripped the stage or had, people that will look at you as a fan, I know they know that feeling of, man, these people think I'm big. I don't want them to think I'm smaller than what I am. And so living that process of life, putting you in place, you're left with a choice. Now, do I try to keep up this image like everything's great, or do I just try to get back to the basics and really, going to this point you're making about exercise, do I, can I become a better person? I would never apologize for my time in music, because it was a lot of learning experiences. It's one thing understanding music as a listener, but when you understand the production of it, it actually plays directly into what I do now with Farmer Brown the MC. Just understanding the tie between hip hop, culture, and everything that we're sold. Most commercials you listen to now, they have some sort of hip hop theme, color, or culture around it. And so saying that to say it, it took that to build confidence, right? It builds confidence, but then it took the custodial work. It took, and I didn't get paid a lot of money. Like I said, I was doing that because I knew, okay, I need to finish school. I'm not going to take out all of these loans, and so I need to make sure, because I still got bills, rent, and things of that nature. And so it really humbled me. It kept me focused on, okay, what's really important? Is that how people see you important, or is the service that you're providing for people, is that what's important? And so each step of the way, that mental exercise of just being able to humble yourself, I think the Most High, it's a mechanism within the way of God that, when you follow my way, then I'll direct your path, lean not to your own understanding. And so my understanding was, okay, Trevor, this ain't about being popular. This is about how can you leverage what you've been blessed and able to do to benefit, others around you.
I just think I think it's so loaded in ways that I probably can't even articulate. But, of course, you talk about how God will arrange things, but a lot of people still don't submit to that arrangement,
because it requires change. It requires you looking in the mirror, realize, okay, I was wrong. Okay, I did this, and nothing's free. You pay for it up front or on the back end. And so the sooner you address, the sooner you can look in the mirror and be like, okay, that was a bad judgment. Okay, there's a better way. Okay, there's more I should be doing. There's more I could be doing. There's nobody to run and tell. There's nobody to blame. I'm the thing that's in common with every problem I have. And so to the degree, it's a humbling process. It's very humbling.
It's just so many things of, saying I'm the common, it's taking that ownership and being a part. There oftentimes, even when you look at some type of wheel and the pottery and clay, the clay has to submit to the work of the one who's doing the work to, make that. And a lot of us don't get to that part. So in some regards, we wind up living less than our potential because we just could not stay still long. So that janitorial process, and even, as you say, reflecting back on your grandmother or different ones who had gardening or whatever. I grew up having a garden in our backyard when I was growing up in Western Kentucky. But there's no part of that made me want to get in it, maybe because I didn't stay on the wheel long enough, But so you feel like because even when we talked about earlier about you made the reference to even being a non-traditional student, and for myself as well, we talked about how, this is before we recorded, y'all, about how we started traditionally and ended non-traditionally, and how there are a lot of people even in that would have started and not went well. Like you said, you didn't finish, BCTC at that time, what it was called then. I mean, LCC is what it was called then. Now BCTC is. But anyhow, didn't finish it. But then you went back. What part? I mean, and maybe that's something about the mental exercise as well, that somewhere you said, I really need to finish. I need to go back and be able to do something.
Like I said, it was embarrassing. Most of the classes I was in, I have nephews older than the people I was in class with. Especially when I got to K-State, and unfortunately, a lot of my classmates didn't look like us. It was a handful of us, and I'm like, this is a great program. Like, why don't more people in Kentucky know about this program? Like, this is a huge opportunity. And so I was kind of driven by my embarrassment. Like, why does this 18-year-old know more about how a farm operates than I do? Everybody on the planet eats. And so, understand economics. If you have a product that everybody needs, because everybody doesn't need entertainment, everybody don't need the forms of recreation, but everybody has to eat. And so when you think about how many different positions, roles, jobs, careers, entrepreneurship opportunities that's entailed just in the way people eat, and I didn't even know the difference between a tractor and a implement, that's embarrassing, because my mind is, agriculture is just plows and cows. And then one thing that brought it to my attention, you get me talking about things, man. I apologize.
Yeah, no.
I had a professor. It was a brother. He wore Jordans, had the Sunni. I don't know if you ever met Dr. Collins. Okay, from D.C. He went through the HBCU circuit. And he was a doctor, chemistry. And, I remember actually seeing him on a billboard before I transferred to K-State. This is how, it says that God works in mysterious ways. And so, because he was the one in his field where there wasn't many others that looked like him. But I remember he had brought to my attention, he was my ag and energy teacher. He's like, do you know only like 2% of the farmers in North America are black? What do you think about that? And then, it just, wow, 100% of us eat and only 2% of us are producing it.
Wow.
And think about this, man. Agriculture is a $1 trillion and growing industry in just North America alone. $1 trillion. Out of that, black farmers, people classified as black farmers, primary operators, these are the ones that own the farm, 0.5% of the revenue of a $1 trillion industry. Let that sink in. Not 5%, not 50%. Depending on the census count, we've stayed around 13, 14 forever, but I could see 13%, right? But 0.5% of a $1 trillion industry that everybody, irregardless of color, ideology, which side of the bird you stand on, everybody has to eat. And I'm a part of a group that only represents like 1.4% of producers and getting 0.5% of the revenue from this field.
And I think for those of you who are wondering where the money resides, it's in that percent right there. It made me think of something you said earlier, that some people are not in pursuit of the knowledge of it because of a lack of understanding. And you said something about plows and cows, and when we do think of agriculture or farming or any of that stuff, we have no understanding. And some of us, depending on what region we're from, have no relation to it. And then sometimes based on the commercials or the different things we see, we're not seen. So you would, in some regards, be impressed or want to ascribe to entertainment or ascribe to some of the things or acting or things that you see, because that's in front of your face. When in regard, in another sense, I would venture to say that agriculture is probably in our face as well, but we don't know what to look for.
Think about it, man. So when I was in fourth grade, third through fourth grade, that was actually, third through fifth grade was my research for Farmer Brown MC that I did at K-State. But when you're in that age range, you're still, your mind is impressionable. The posters I would see in my classroom would be Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, Bo Jackson. Maybe you see Bill Cosby at that time and LeVar Burton, right? So that would be the, black imagery. When it came to science, you see Albert Einstein. When it came to people that I resemble genetically, when it comes to farming, it will be through the auspice of slavery in your history book. So there was literally never a marketing image.
And cotton.
It was always a disparaging image when if you're a little brown kid in social studies, because most other classes you probably don't talk about it much, but social studies, the few chapters they do talk about slavery, it's like the images. It makes you think of just distress. It makes you think of, this is something I need to run away from. I'm doing better if I'm away from this picture. And these are mostly black and white pictures. These are just moments in time. You might have just caught these people just coming off of a full day of getting a good yield for themselves. Like, so my family, my grandmother's family is from the deep south in Louisiana. They were commercial farmers, and this was in the early 1920s. It wasn't slavery. They were successful commercial farmers with third grade educations. But once again, the culture said, no, you want to go up north to the factories. You want to go to the city. You don't want to be out here working in this field for yourself. Go on and sell us this land for cheap, and get you a job.
So do you think that some of your makeup is through the history, the family dynasty of farming, and how you were exposed to that through, or find out your history? Because when you say those images, because I've seen those same images, and when you do think of, some of the movies reflect that same disparaging
absolutely
thought, that when we see whatever it is, it's like we're trying to escape it and try to run away from it and get out of it. Give us free, so we go. And then when we do get freedom, we go into the city or to whatever town they have in these movies or whatever. And then we become lawyers and doctors. Nothing wrong with any of that stuff. But it's like the things that we were picking using just that one part, just cotton, there's much more than that, but just even using that, we weren't even some way shaped to even say, I'm going to take that cotton and I'm going to make something with that.
Exactly.
Instead of them using me to pick it or being used to pick it, I'm going to develop it and grow it. And now you're going to wear it without, that mindset, because you said your family in the 1920s or whatever was commercial farmers, and not slaves, but actual doing.
This was during the age of Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
These times that we talk about and reminisce about. Irony is the largest percentage of black farmers there's ever been in North America was in 1925. That's when black farmers were 15% of American farmers. So before civil rights, as a matter of fact, this is before World War I, World War II, black farmers were 15% of the producers. So with all of the affirmative action, with all of the progress we've made, all of the education, we're at 1.4%.
So what changed?
So think about this. And so
now, let me tell y'all that I'm sorry, I'm learning at the same time. I hope this is very interesting to me, this concept. And for those of you who are just stumbling into listening to this or watching this, I told them before, that all of these conversations that I've had with different people are one is interesting to me as well, because all of us have a lane that we are developing in and uniquely designed for. And this particular lane that you're in is underpopulated by us.
Severely.
So that's why I'm so
severely.
interested in that, like what shifted and changed.
You think about random day or week in the 80s, late 80s, 90s. You know, if you're a young black male or a young black female, what you're seeing on TV. That's around when Roots came out. You know, movies like Roots, 12 Years a Slave, even going back to Color Purple. Those were horrible marketing tools.
Oh, help me, y'all.
For agricultural
People know that Color Purple is my favorite movie.
I love the movie.
Give me a moment of silence.
Right? Like these are movies we grew up on. These were like a part of our, like, you know, I grew up with my mom and my sister, and so obviously the women, you know, love that movie. So saying that to say,
but I get what you're saying. The signs or symbols that were being shown that we, in some regard, just equated to struggle and stress and strain and not building or growth. I would probably now look at it through a different lens that I probably didn't look at it as before.
You think about, so the entertainment we have, I'm hip hop to the core, but sadly, our hip hop is literally destructive. I almost see it as a weapon of war. As far as the words, it preaches death, it preaches unrighteousness, imbalance. But saying that to say, that had to be marketed to somebody to say, hey, it's cool to promote the destruction of a neighborhood through, you know, whatever means, and you understand what I'm talking about. And so the same way that destructive behavior was marketed through TV, through music videos. You have, you know, the pretty ladies, you have the parties, have all the colorful. Agriculture was marketed backwards. It was marketed as something like, you know, with your cousin, you got a plate, y'all are playing, you don't want them to eat it, so you lick the plate. And so they won't come back and eat your plate, right? You're marking it. And so, and I'm not saying that was done intentionally, I don't know. But that was a side effect of being marketed this, the sports, you know, the living the high life, you know, bling bling, having a good time. And see, like I said, in my unique position, I experienced it because I thought that's what I wanted to do. You know, that I was impressed. The first rap video I saw was in '91. It was Snoop Dogg. '92. It was Snoop Dogg, and from there, because my mom wasn't with it. You know, she wasn't with it. Like, she found my first rap records, she made me burn them. And so that put that rebellious spirit in me, like, no, she don't like it, I love it. But saying that to say, it was marketed to me like, this is the, you know, if I want to be a rebellious person, this is what to do, rap. Mm-hmm. And it's like today, fast forward to today, agriculture to me personally is one of the best forms of, I don't want to say rebellion, you know, unless you're rebelling against hunger, unless you're rebelling against bad economics. But it's something that the world needs anyway. When we think about the history of slavery, America was built on agriculture. It wasn't fruits and vegetables. It was like the grains for your bourbon and whiskey and cotton and hemp, things of that nature. But like you said about the cotton, these are products that people use to turn into things that people sell. Yeah. And our ancestors, if we go with the narrative of slavery of 400 years, genetically, you've mastered this skill of working the land. When, you know, I hate to get too scientific, but you almost have to when you're talking about agriculture. One of the main drivers or things that affect agriculture is the labor. And so I don't know if you know, 80% of the food grown in North America is grown by people not from North America. Meaning, you know, if you go any random direction on an American farm, ownership is very different. Ownership is like 95% white Americans, but when it comes to actually who's, you know, putting in the work, the fingers, is going to be your H-2A workers below the border. This is why it's not even political. You have to think logistically. You know, I want to keep the border closed, but if I close this border, y'all ain't going to eat. Are y'all teaching y'all's kids to go out here and farm? These tractors, we see that they're unsustainable, right? A lot of the heavy machinery, a lot of the old ways that we've been doing agriculture, like it's not good for the land. We destroy the land. You know, even in the Bible, you had your 7 years of plenty, and then you had your 7 years where you let it lie fallow. That is the Most High's perfect sustainable farm. But when it became commercialized, and this is shortly after slavery, and one of the things, slavery ended because machines came. Like, I don't really need y'all out here no more. It ain't about a good thing or bad thing. It's like, okay, there's machines. There's another way to do this. And so saying that to say our global agricultural,
which is very important.
Our global agricultural system had gotten so dependent on just commercial, go big. We got 7 billion people on this planet that got to eat, grow big, grow big. And in doing that, you destroy the land. When we think about the carbon emissions, when we think about a lot of the climate change issues, a lot of this is directly tied to agricultural practices. I would be a hypocrite if I sat here and said I don't eat something that was produced in this process, right? And so instead of getting mad about it, what can I do? Is it feasible to try to be as sustainable as I can be as an individual, as well as grow a garden? You know, I'm not going to, I can't feed my full family off of what I can grow in a small garden. But if you can convince enough people to grow a small garden, then it becomes more of a natural food system, which is professionally speaking, this is where it's going. It's going to go back to localized food. The big farms that most of us have grown up seeing, and it's unsustainable.
I'm thinking of some positive imagery of farming and agricultural. And one of the few that I can think of that shows Black Americans is Ava DuVernay's Queen Sugar.
And that just came out, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's very recent. But I when I think of that and how it promotes taking care of your own, going out there, you know, they inherited their dad's land and that building of it. And honestly, I know a few shows like that have that whole, let's protect this. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure this is for our people. Let's make sure that the farmers are protected. Let's make sure that the people have, that there's no highways going through their land. That's making, you know, and it makes me think of what you're talking about as far as how we need to grow our own and what it is we're supposed to be doing to sustain. So, but anyhow, I just thought about that because I was trying, while you were talking, I was just trying to think. I'm like, what? There's got to be something that's positive that's really
very
showcasing
recent,
this.
Very recent. So you'll start seeing. You know, once again, this is something I learned at K-State. Sometimes the pictures you see on a flyer. If every time you see, say, a picture of a science class, say I'm a HBCU, I'm wanting to promote diversity. Before we had letters, we read symbols. We were visual people, right? And so if you're always seeing the brown students just learning, never in a position of, you know, teaching, that's going to affect, you know, the mind of, now, can I really thrive in this field? That looks like it's too hard. But I always see myself in the lead when it comes to playing sports. Or I always see myself in the lead when it comes to entertaining and making people feel good. And so once again, the imagery is everything. From this conversation we're having now, I guarantee there's going to be at least one individual that's going to hear maybe a sentence of what we've talked about, and they're going to talk to somebody close to them. You know, this is the concept of how seeds start. You know, that mustard seed, and it's like, this is why I was very appreciative of you bringing me on to have this conversation. Because it's not one of those things that you get on a podium and talk about. It's a very interpersonal discussion to be had.
But I'm just thinking of all the children or people, young people, or even non-traditional, you know, people who are older, that could benefit from understanding the power that we have. And not that anyone's going to necessarily start a garden or anything, but I mean, it's possible.
Start a garden in your window.
Yeah, anything to start to appreciate. I was actually this morning. And I by no means understand plants, agriculture, any of that type of stuff. I mean, I understand some things, so I'm not going to get into it. But even this morning, I was talking to my youngest son, and I was there was a lot of brownery around the different plants, and I was cutting off that stuff, and I was asking him why am I doing this? Do you know why? And he said, I don't know. I guess for it to grow. I said, well, why won't it grow if I leave this stuff on here? And he was like, well, that's dead around it. I said, so I cut it off so that it will grow. I mean, it was a simple conversation, but it wasn't about gaming, YouTube,
right,
Facebook, any of that type of stuff. So those type of introductions, you know, not saying he's scared to start growing plants, you know, but this type of stuff that you're talking about and the 0.5%, you know, or less that's in that industry. There are people, like you said, that I do hope that listen to this conversation and either Google or look you up and be like, I need to please introduce this to or this concept.
It's a game of niches. I mean, you think about it. So agriculture, I think, is 19 million total jobs in North America, ag-related fields. Every year, 35,000 plus jobs get unfilled in agriculture. And this is why you have to bring in H-2A workers, because people aren't going into this field. The average person with a college degree, and it's not saying you have to get a degree, so on average you stand to make about $2.6 million over the course of your career. It sounds like a lot of money. It equates to about 40-some thousand. So when we think about all of the jobs that are being lost right now, there's a lot of job opportunities within the ag field, and everything getting out in the field. Ag marketer actually makes on average about $109,000 a year. This is average. Marketer doesn't touch a farm, probably doesn't touch a farm product. They just use a platform such as yours to, if you're working for a corporation, you're going to market whatever products your corporation sells. If you're working independently or working with a cooperative, you're going to market what your cooperative is selling. There's people that understand logistics. They just know how to move something from point A to point B. You go to any random, I hate to say the word hood, but you go to any random hood around Kentucky or United States, there's young people that understand logistics very well. Get a product from here, get it to there in a competitive climate, get the money, take it back. This is the same thing with food. Food is literally, it takes the same brain power. And when you put into perspective, everybody you pass every day has to eat. When they go to the store, I mean, if your packaging is right, and this goes into the arts, this goes into your more creative people. If your packaging right, they're not going to take time to see what color the fingers were of the person that produced it. If it looks good, if it's a good product, I'll eat it. Food, fuel, and fiber. If you like the cotton you talking about, it's gonna go to hemp. I'm just giving you a heads up. This innovative hemp that's from this regenerative plant that fixes the soil. Ooh, we now have somebody that designs clothes.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because you brought up hemp, and because those of you who need new books, here's some great books that was sent to me. I have been learning. I feel like the student. Reading these books.
We're all learning.
I wish that, and one of the reasons I want to have this conversation, because I appreciate what you're doing. I really do. And how you're packaging and introducing these pearls to minds that would have never been introduced to it by us. Had somebody not wrote it, so these things will outlive you, and plant seeds in other people's minds. So that's why I appreciate it. But when you said hemp, I looked at it. I did not know this. And those of y'all who are watching, judge me if you want. And a plague of frogs will come in your life. But it said, hemp fiber is stronger and lighter than cotton. Hemp fabric is great for apparel and accessories such as shirts, hats, shoes, dresses, pants, handbags, purses, and even for upholstery in cars and on furniture. Who knew? I didn't know.
There's a lot of people lost money this past year in Kentucky because, it's just now getting legalized to grow. You have to get licensed, but everybody went for the oil. There's about 25,000 different products or 20,000 products you can derive from hemp. I mean, you can get bricks from hemp. So once again, when we're thinking long-term of the opportunities, because what I'm talking about is the opportunities, right? We know the world's going to have to be sustainable. Hemp is better on the soil than cotton. And so a lot of those big plots where you see cotton, we can't do nothing with cotton anymore, so it's going to be replanted with hemp. For people that know how to grow the cousin of hemp, grow something that actually grows fiber. It's literally within the same family. And so it's taking these skill sets that we already have and applying them to just looking at the game a little bigger. Then it was funny when I first got into this, all my friends assumed I was wanting to grow marijuana. Oh, I know why you going in that farm and you want not at all. I want to learn how to grow food. And once again, from that seed, I realized wow, agriculture touches every bit of everything that's your wood shelf was a tree at one time. On somebody, when we talk about generational wealth, so granddad said, all right, I know one day I'm going to want my grandkid to go to college and I don't want him to go to debt. I want him to start a business. So I'm going to plant this plot on my family land because family been able to talk with one another and actually sit down and plan things out. we're going to grow a couple acres of these oak trees. And in 40 years, when we think of investments in 40 years, this will take care of, because I know people's going to need lumber, desks, and people like playing on them basketball courts. You like to build with wood. So I know this is something that's needed. So forestry, that's a form of agriculture. The the grandson who harvested now has money in the bank the granddad planted years ago. Nature took care of it, right? These are different forms of agriculture. You can run certain animals through trees. There's multiple systems. And so that's why I say, the beauty of getting an education around it, there's certain natural things you can learn just by starting your own window plant, for example, or your backyard garden. But then the educational piece, it really breaks down how many uses it is and then how many areas of opportunities. Like I guarantee across ethnicity, I think the world needs somebody to take lead or somebody to, they know we come from an agricultural people. When I say they, just the proverbial they, whoever we're talking about, understand, man, now if these folks who have mastered the arts, music, entertainment, sports, culinary, fashion, everything we talk about that drives humanity, makes humanity better, we've mastered. And so is the thing that we mastered that actually feeds people, that's what we're not paying attention to. So it's like if we want to help ourselves, right, let's learn to help the world by feeding, by providing the things that the land provides in a sustainable way. Because we know our ancestors didn't have tractors and all of this technology to work with. So by nature, we're a sustainable people. And so to solve I'm the type of person, I don't see a lot of problems. I see a lot of opportunities. The lockdowns over the last year, it opened up a lot of the different needs within the food system. I know you're hearing the stories about the supply chain shortages, the disruptions as far as at the ports. These are some of those 35,000 jobs that don't get filled. Your quality inspectors. I remember when I was at K-State in 2015, I think only 1 out of every 100 of those shipping containers were even checked for quality because you don't have, a robot can only scan so much. And if you don't have a groundswell of people going into this field, I got thousands of these coming in a day. Who has the time? Logistical. So saying, I think the point you made about your son is perfect. Son, why didn't this work? Go a little deeper. Well, if you're watering, because this plant needs water and sunlight, so if some of this water and sunlight's going to a piece of it that's dead, it's wasted. We don't want to waste nothing, right? And so the kid's mind, and if it's focused on, now guess what? This same thing Dad just taught you about this plant, if you apply it to something like hemp, if you apply it to something like corn or something that you can turn into different products, then the kid's mind early turns, okay, I see what Dad was doing. It was just in the window. But man, if I grow 1,000 of these years, I can make this and turn it into this and create a business. And literally everything we put our hands on at some point was just a mineral or resource in the ground that somebody decided I could turn this into this. There's X amount of people that will buy this. And like I said, food it's a giveaway. And my thing is how to get us excited about the opportunities within producing food. It doesn't require, a lot of activism. It doesn't require a lot of anger. It literally feed people. Find a niche within the space that feeds people, clothes people, and gives shelter.
When you said earlier before we recorded, you said out of all the things that divide us, food unites us, and I keep thinking of the quote that is often said. I don't know who said it. They said, if you find what you're passionate about, you'll never work another day. And to see the passion that you have for this, it's not work for you. This is just pouring out of you which is representative of the books that you're sharing and just the information. So first of all, we could not wrap off. We could continue this conversation on and on and on and on, but we're wrapping up. All and right. I have enjoyed the lessons that I've learned, and I hope that you all, I really, really, really hope that there are some people that are watching this and something has gone off in you and taking ownership of your land or ownership for your family or whatever it is. But I want to see, where do you see this information yourself and how it's spreading like in the next 10 years? How do you feel, or what is your dream or vision of what you see?
Selfishly, let me be very transparent. Selfishly, so I was best with twins. Ashley and I have twins, a boy and a girl. They're going to be 3 in January, but they're learning how to talk, but they know how to say Farmer Brown, Farmer Brown. I'm like their favorite character. Chicken Let's Shovel, Chicken. They know the
And for
songs.
those of you who don't watch the Farmer Brown is the character in
Yes.
the book.
Overalls. My children who barely know how to talk know how to plant. Plenty garden, they walk past the garden, plenty garden. They love soil. And so what I know is, wow, so this does work, this imagery, because some of the books I have, they were books I intentionally designed. Like, when my kids see us talking about food, they need to see pictures of themselves. They need to see representations of themselves in this conversation. And they literally eat the books.
Most of it said you, like, for those of you who, I don't know if you can see this, I don't have multiple cameras to zoom in, but it says these are illustrated by you as well.
Yes.
So you actually drew them.
Yes.
So
and the concept is, seeing people that look like you within the space.
Well, even
of
in
food.
that, I was like, that's a skill set that somewhere you picked up to draw, or to be able to, make sure, or you got someone else to do it, or you drew it yourself. You drew it yourself. Yeah. Like, where did even that come from?
I've always drawn.
Yeah.
I actually started drawing shoes. My mom would never buy me name brand shoes, and so I draw them.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah. I didn't have the name brand. Sometimes they had the little specials. Pay
less.
Yeah, whatever special they had.
Right.
Yeah. But back to what you feel.
But in 10 years. Not only do I see just within my household, my children being able to take this and turn it into something that dad and mom couldn't have possibly thought about, because they have a context of how important it is. They've had an experience with their hands of saying, I can do this. I can create this. So my goal, I have a very specific goal. I want to reach 250,000 3rd through 5th graders. I want to reach 250,000 3rd through 5th graders. I would say up to this point since 2015, I would say closer to about 20,000. And this is just in-class presentations, live presentations, different programs. So my goal is 250,000 3rd through 5th graders. Their first conversation about agriculture in relation to themselves is a positive one. That's why I throw the hip hop in it. That doesn't mean everybody likes rap, but I'm, shock value, right? If I can get your mind open for a couple seconds to plant this seed, and that's all it's about, 250,000. I believe in the law of thirds. And so if a third of this 250,000 who had this positive introduction to this concept of agriculture finds their niche in it, finds their niche in either the sciences, legal, all of these aspects, then that's going to address that 1.4% participation. That's going to increase that 0.5% revenue that we're getting out of a $1 trillion and growing industry. And so a 3rd through 5th grader now, by you're saying 10 years, they're going to be going to college. I have a dream that the halls of these HBCUs and land-grant universities are filled with excited melanated kids that want to learn how to grow and feed people.
Yeah. And when you said when you said to even build on what you said earlier about selfishly, I don't think that it's selfish. I think it's legacy. It's thinking of legacy, which is what you were talking about with the guy or woman who created land and said 40 years later, I want my children, the thinking beyond them. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think is most important about what you're doing and the passion behind it, that not saying the entertainment and those other areas, and I love music as well. It doesn't mean that those things won't outlive us as well, but something that's of a necessity that's feeding us. We're going to need all of that. So I just think that it's good. So wrapping up, there's somebody who's watching, or maybe a parent who needs to introduce this stuff to their children or whatever, or get a greater understanding. What would you say to people who, one, it might be the first time they're hearing this, and some what would your words be to them? My
words will be, if you really want to know something, learn how to grow something. What that means is start with a seed. So my day job at Kentucky State University, I work with small farms. I'm a county extension agent, and the goal is I give you research-based information, but some of the best advice anybody can get is start small. If you've never tried your hand at growing before or haven't been too successful, just start with maybe a pot or two in your house. Water it, nurture it, see what works, see what doesn't work. As you understand it, expand. Once again, the sooner you plant the seed, the sooner you'll see a harvest from it. There's many things. Right now, we do have Google. I mean, Google University does have some uses, and it's good to see what other people are doing as far as growing. But in the times to come, it's definitely going to be a necessity for people to at least know how to grow some greens or some lettuce or some herbs. But that has to become a skill that becomes as much a part of our culture as smartphones.
Yeah. If you want to know something, grow something. That's good. I'm going to use that again. Y'all tweet that. So how can people follow you? How can they find you so that people can, get more information on what it is you're doing and what you're offering?
All right, so you can find some of my books online, Trevor Claiborne at Amazon.com. You could also go to my website, farmerbrownthemc.site. That's the THAMC.site. There it can direct you to some of my music. And so I do, like I said, I'm hip hop, so I got some little, I won't call them kiddie songs, but educational songs, hip hop talking about farming. So you can access that there. I also do a podcast called B1 Ag Daily Bread Podcast. This is through the Black Boss channel. And we also have a course called healthyblackfood.com on the Black Business School. And that's basically just a guide for anybody wanting to get their garden started. We really go into the science and make it palatable for the family. So,
well, everyone, I encourage you to get these books. Don't just even get them for your children. If you just you need some understandable literature about the things we've talked about, and something good to look at. I suggest you look these up. I really, really, once again, appreciate you having this conversation and being the teacher today, that this wasn't just a regular, ordinary podcast of just talking about, business startup and stuff like this. But these are things that obviously are sustainable and needed, and thank you for causing us to look again at some of the imagery that we have kind of just looked over and skated over and defined as a part of who we are, but it wasn't all of who we were. I think that is one of the lessons I've gotten from today, that it was a part of who we are, but it wasn't all of it. It wasn't the whole story, as you said about my son, to look a little bit deeper. And I think that this conversation has challenged all of us to look a little bit deeper into what access we already have to things that we've already been designed to build and grow and do. So, yeah.
Our first setting was the garden.
Yeah. Yeah. And he gave, don't stop. We're going to have a whole nother conversation. Very good. All right. Bye, y'all.